for this conversation with Preeti and me on inner work and healing and self-work. In this busy, noisy world where our monkey mind is constantly jumping from the past to the future, to the past to the future.
The sense of finding ourselves is a journey. We feel that I know myself, right? But actually you are finding yourself, you're discovering yourself.
This is my personal self and this is my professional self, and that my personal self will not adulterate my professional self and my professional self will not adulterate my personal self. That is actually a myth for me.
When you realize that you've done the work and you feel that self-love is something which you've been missing, and you start loving yourself, a lot of times again the perception outside changes to being selfish because you started thinking more about yourself. But there's also a guilt aspect which automatically comes in as a person because it's very difficult to make that shift. How do we work around it?
Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here for this conversation with Preeti and me on inner work and healing and self-work. In this busy, noisy world where our monkey mind is constantly jumping from the past to the future, to the past to the future, where we face everyday challenges from anxiety and stress and all kinds of other challenges, we really take a few minutes today and take this time to self-reflect, to look within, and to try and find some answers on how we can deal with our everyday challenges. So I learned to deal with my inner world from Dr. Preeti. I was a brash, angry guy when I got married 23 years back. And she was calm and peaceful, and I was always stressed and anxious, and she was always peaceful. And I was inspired by Dr. Preeti. And with her, I got on this journey of inner work. And it's been beautiful, it's been transformative. And we're very happy to share some of it with you together. And also, to see what some of the challenges are that you face in your everyday life. So Preeti, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for guiding so many people on this journey, on this inner journey.
Thank you.
And your initial thoughts.
So as you're talking about the marriage, I'm actually feeling like sharing that the sense of finding ourselves is a journey. We feel that I know myself, right? But actually you are finding yourself, you're discovering yourself. So as Ganesh is talking about marriage, in the relationship also, we are constantly actually finding ourselves. We start feeling like I know this person, I know my partner. No, he's going to keep growing, he's going to keep evolving. And when we are actually with the person in that way, and the marriage is going to actually show me so many aspects about my own self. And similarly, when we are together here, whatever work that you're doing, whatever that you're working on, and the colleague that you're working with every day is actually going to help you to know yourself deeper. So welcome everybody for this time that you've taken, the conversation that we are having. And
it's so beautiful that every situation, every colleague, every project that we work on, every relationship that we have allows us to keep discovering our own selves, to keep evolving as human beings. And so that is really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And so therefore, every work day and every home day is evolution in action and connecting with our own selves. So with that, we move on, and we take the first idea on emotional healing and the emotional journey, why healing or inner work matters. Uh, in my life, I I faced many challenges, and what I found was every time I tried to fix the challenge on the outside, there was a problem on the outside. I tried to work on the problem. I tried to fix it. I tried to do what I needed to do on the outside. I had limited results. But when I closed my eyes, I meditated, I self reflected, that same effort that I was putting on the outside multiplied. So when my inner world changed, the outer outcomes changed as well. As I became calmer within, as I became more present, as I was able to silence my mind, out of a state of emptiness or inner silence or inner peace, I was able to bring resolution to challenges. So really, I I had almost lived up to my name of remover of obstacles. I had to remove obstacles in a lot of cases. And that happened by looking within, not by looking outside all the time. So that is why this inner journey really matters. That is why looking at our emotions, looking at how we feel matters. And that is why we always ask our people, how are you feeling versus what are you doing? Because if you do well, you may or may not feel well. But if you feel well, you will almost always do well. So we'd love to hear from you, Preeti, why this inner journey and this inner work and emotional work, why is that important?
If we understand the whole science, the way that we perceive things, everything that has happened in our journey till now is already stored. And when we are in a situation, everything that we are seeing, hearing there is going in, and the interpretation software is already there. It's being interpreted through that. So naturally what happens is when people are operating in the world, somebody else is saying something and they're actually evaluating, why is this person saying that? But when we are taking time to meditate, to reflect, we are actually taking out that outer trigger and we are silencing the mind. We are actually also allowing ourselves to see, oh, why am I thinking like this? Right? So this law of reflection, our inner world is being projected in the outer world. Our inner world is being reflected in the outer world. And when we take the time to do that, we are actually able to take out the blockages which are actually within. You mentioned remover of the obstacles. Actually, the obstacles are within and they get reflected in the outer journey, in the outer world.
I have a question to this, Dr.
Yes.
You said that there's a lot of past, this thing that we have, and in a personal space you work differently, in a professional space you're expected to work very differently. How do you balance the emotional health between the personal self that you probably know yourself in and the professional aspect that you're supposed to be expected to behave? How do you balance that?
See, behavior is on the outside, right? The expectations are there, but the self is the same. So when I'm talking about you having that self and you carrying that self, it's the same self which is going to be carried there. For example, you have issues with your father. If your father was very dominating, now what will happen is you will always resist. You will feel, I don't want anybody's domination. And what will happen is actually you will attract a boss who's dominating. He will trigger that in you. Now this is not directly, you may think, no, this is his personality issue, but the fact that you are carrying that energy within you, that is also affecting that, right? Now, many times when we are not looking at what's happening in the inner world, the issues just start to build here. At work, you will feel he's a dominating person. I don't like the way he's saying things. And then you will start resisting. Then your performance issues, you will start fearing him. So this resistance starts to build up. But when we are able to see that, what happens is he may have his own personality things, but things for you start changing. That is how it changes in our work.
Yeah, and actually, beautiful question that you asked, because everybody talks about work-life balance, right? Where work is the punishment for a life at the end of it. They're not talking about personal life and professional life balance. They're talking about work-life balance. We always refer to personal life and professional life balance. You need time with family and you need time at work. But work is also life. The way we perceive work-life balance often is, Monday to Friday, punishment, Saturday, Sunday, reward. Morning to evening, punishment, evening, Netflix thriller, right? So you'd want to, in an ideal case scenario, if you were doing inner work, you would go, Monday morning would be as exciting as Friday evening, because work is also life, and there's a beautiful balance between, your personal life and your professional life. The other part is, if you've had an unpleasant situation at home and you've had some conflicts at home and you show up at work right after that, do you think that you would be able to completely put that behind and just be a completely different person? So this whole idea that this is my personal self and this is my professional self, and that my personal self will not adulterate my professional self and my professional self will not adulterate my personal self, that is actually a myth for me. Is because what is happening at home affects what is happening at work. What is happening at work affects what is happening at home. It's very simple. We are one human being, one person. So beautifully you put it, that what about this version of me and this version of me? The key is authenticity. The key is to be yourself. That's our greatest calling. To just be yourself, to be authentic. And for us is to be childlike, not childish, but to be childlike. A childlike presence at work, without the masks, without without all those artificial layers. Oh, I have to be prim and proper and be like this at work, and I should only do. No, we don't need to. I had reasonable success in my work without ever trying to put on any kind of mask. I was just the childlike self that I am, and I as I would be at home. So obviously there are nurturing boundaries, and there are certain things that you'd have in a work environment, and those are important. But it's about being authentic, about having that high level of integrity and that high level of authenticity. And it's the same person. We are one human being. And both work life and personal life can be as beautiful. Both Monday morning and Friday evening can be as beautiful, can be a celebration. And that's what we work towards.
That's beautiful when you're actually talking about work-life balance, right? Actually, what the person is seeking deep is really presence. Am I able to be present with my loved ones, right? Because many times when we are working so much and we feel, oh, there's too much work and I'm actually carrying this to my home and I'm not able to be with them, right? So actually what we need to work towards is really presence. That is the practice, that when we are at work, we are fully present at work. When we are at home, we are really able to fully be present. And that is something that obviously comes with practice, right? So we need to definitely kind of find the balance between work life and professional life and our personal life, but really bring the quality of presence to that. And I feel like sharing one of the tips, because I'm sure a lot of us actually struggle with that. When some project is going on, we are still thinking about work back home, or when something back home is there, we are still kind of carrying that. I had a beautiful kid and I was talking to him and I was treating him. And he said, I have this imaginary cupboard. So there are these different drawers, there are these different sections. And when I have this issue, I put it in a golden file and I put it there. and I put this kind of things in another file and I put it there. So in my mind, I've actually shelved it. Okay, I'm going to come back to this golden file later. But actually, we all can mentally do that. When there are things going on and we know that at the back of the mind it's going on, we can actually do that so that we are really able to be present wherever we are.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just being present. I think Preeti, I think that is the solution to everything.
Of course.
That if we can be fully here, right now we're sitting here, all of us together, and if we are fully here, we are not somewhere else. I think that solves all the challenges. So with that, I wanted to come on to the next area. I thought we were going to discuss a bunch of stuff. Self-obsession versus self-love. That's very fascinating. When I read it, I said, okay, who are the people you would classify as loving themselves and having self-love, and who are the people you would classify as being self-obsessed? And maybe Preeti, you should go first here.
Yeah. So as I was sharing earlier, that knowing the self is a journey, right? There are the unconscious and the subconscious actually, which constitutes 95% plus. So, and the 5% which we think I know myself is just the little 5%. So deeper and deeper layers will keep showing up. So self-love journey actually needs that we are non-judgmental, that we are open to discovering ourselves and saying that I'm ready to love myself, right? So we are holding that non-judgmental, compassionate space for ourselves. And it's an everyday practice. Because sometimes, let's face it, a dark side may come. You may act in a way that you never thought you would. So many times we all say, it's the other one who made me angry. I'm not an angry person, right? But we say that because that's not how authentically we would like to be, but it has come up. Now, self-love practice takes the courage to say, yes, this anger is within me and let me look deeper. What is actually bringing that? Self-obsession on the other side becomes more rigid. People who start saying, I know myself, I am like this only. I do not compromise on this. So they start actually becoming rigid and they start kind of just obsessing about themselves, right? Because, okay, this is how I am and everything around me has to kind of, fit accordingly. And they start obsessing too much about also the issues and how they have to be fixed. A lot of control is also there, trying to control the things rather than to flow with life. When we are flowing with life, of course, life will bring to us situations where we need to grow. And growth obviously always not is very easy. Sometimes challenges come, sometimes there is pain, but we are really opening ourselves to that. That is what self-love journey requires.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I have another take on this. Easy to find out whether you are in self-love or not. If you sit by yourself doing nothing, either in meditation or in silence, and you can just be with yourself for long periods without feeling lonely. If you can enjoy aloneness, just be with your own self. Be at peace with your own self without doing anything, without fidgeting, without trying to eat something, trying to watch something. Just be in nature, be with yourself. You know that you're okay with yourself. Self-love is a kind of okayness that we have. And with self-obsession, it's a little bit different. We are trying to fill the emptiness that we have with all the attention. You have to be making a social media post. You have to be doing something. You need the attention. You're constantly obsessing about getting outside attention. So self-love is an inner state of calmness, an inner peace that you experience. Self-obsession is you wanting validation constantly from the outside, you wanting attention, you wanting people to come and tell you how special you are and how good you are, and you feeling, very empty when you don't get that external, attention. And so I would say it's pretty easy to figure this out. But we'd love to see if there are any thoughts people have. Yes, Shelly.
Yes, so I was just thinking when you and Dr. Preeti said about self-love and self-obsession. So I am someone who enjoys that 1 hour, 2 hours in a day alone. And I would like to incorporate that kind of self-love in my daughter as well. Because in today's children, if you see, they need something constantly.
Yeah.
There has to be some either TV or someone to play with or toys. But I want my child as well to build that from now, from this age. So how do I do that with her?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So firstly, of course, thank you for asking this question. Kids are till the age of 6 years, they are just, with themselves. They can only see themselves. They can only think from their perspective. And what we call as they're narcissistic, right? Everything is about me. So for them, of course, we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about saying that I have to bring her to herself, right? They are anyways with themselves. They will, as they are growing up, they will go away from themselves, and then the journey of coming back to themselves. What is important in this stage when we want to kind of bring that is we do not panic when they are bored. For a lot of parents, what happens is when the child says, "Oh, mama, I'm bored," we feel this urgent need to just give them something, right? And so many parents who are just doing so beautifully, where they said, okay, fine, then get bored. It's okay to also get bored, right? You don't always have to have some excitement, because once we keep doing that, the excitement, the adrenaline is building up, and then they want that more and more. So provide the spaces where they can just get bored. And you're sitting with them and you're also like, okay, we'll just be, we're not just doing. So we're just together, and just taking little time with that attitude is something that starts helping.
Yeah. And, like Preeti said, that till the age of 6 or 7, they are very much with themselves. They are at peace. It's a natural period for exploration. It's a natural period to discover. It's a time when the brain is growing, they are seeking adventure, they are trying to figure out through their 5 senses. Through their 5 senses, they're trying to figure everything out around them. They're trying to figure this world out. And so it's very natural for them to be so full of energy, always wanting to do something. I think it's the adult really that needs to practice I think up until a certain point, the child is in this image of God really, is really already the child experiences self-love. For the child, they love themselves and they want to experience things, and that's perfectly normal. So I think we would not want to, then after the age of maybe 10 or 12 or 15, you may want to kind of make some comparisons with the adult and the child. But really it is, what we are sharing is more for us adults, the distinction between self-love and self-obsession. And also, to Preeti's point, if there is a healthy childhood that they've had, where their emotional needs are met, they will not grow up to feel that emptiness that we often feel, right? So what happens is when we get older, we're trying to fill it with some food or shopping or some addiction or relationships, multiple relationships, a house, a bigger house, a car, a bigger car. You're putting everything, it's like going into a black hole. It's like a bottomless pit. Whatever you put in, you don't feel at peace. You still feel that inner You can ask people. It's nothing to do. It doesn't have to do with money. There are a lot of people with a lot of money who would say that I still don't feel peace. So when the emotional needs of a child are met, they don't grow up with this bottomless pit or with this black hole where you are constantly needing things, you're obsessing about things on the outside. Then children naturally practice self-love, and then they naturally grow up to feel self-love. But again, reproduction is a biological process, and there is no university for parenting. So there is trauma that's caused at school, there's trauma that's caused at home. So inevitably, we are all wounded little children in adult bodies, and we become self-obsessed. Whereas self-love is our natural state. That is the state that you're born with. We lost it somewhere. We got adulterated. And so let that child really continue to explore, continue to be busy, continue to do. But yeah, devices, television, computer games cannot be a substitute for time. For the child, time is equal to love. If you give the child time, then the child will not get addicted to all of these devices. I have several friends who their children don't see any device till the age of 5 or 6. They don't see any screen at all. And it's beautiful. But most parents are giving their children tools and objects and devices because they can't give time. It's a substitute for their time. Another question? Yes.
So, do you have any tips for in day-to-day life? Because we are consuming so much of content and we have this image of loving ourselves is something like this. But do you have any tips that will help us to understand the difference between what actually it is and what is it? It's not the image that we have.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, firstly, one of the dangers with actually consuming so many content is because we start thinking that we know. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. When we have heard something, Google, you have seen, you have taken in some content, you have registered it, but that has not become your reality. So this is knowledge or information that you have registered it. Okay, I know self-love looks like this. But the first time I actually read about self-love was in Louise Hay's book. Have you read the book, You Can Heal Your Life? And she says at the end of it, the problem is that we don't love ourselves. There is lack of self-love. And I at that time said, how is it possible? I mean, something so simple. And why does she say that people don't love themselves? I don't love myself. Actually, over the next 20 years, I figured out how I don't love myself. Now, this journey of having the information, okay, I should love myself, to actually coming to a state where I actually am loving myself is a journey, right? And that is something that is so important. So self-love, we all think we understand, right? But how do we understand it? I feel if I love my husband, I will take care of him. I will do things for him. So what do? I think I love myself. Let me go out shopping. I'll pamper myself. I'll go to the parlor. I'll get something done. So that's my way of self-love. People actually take self-love also in the ways that they understand. But there is so much deeper. It's a journey. And like I said in the beginning, that just being open to it, that every day, whatever comes up, I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see it with love. That is what true, deeper self-love is. Also, that requires you doing the shadow work, right? We all have aspects which are not very pleasant to see, dark aspects, and really allowing ourselves to also be open to that. After this, the child starts to rebel the parents. There is counter dependence. Okay, now I don't want to be you. I'm going to fight you. Now they start fighting the parents, and what is it that they're feeling lonely inside? They start actually finding their circle. They start trying to fit in with the other teenagers, okay, so that I can belong. because inside they are feeling lonely. And then when the next 13 years is getting over, by the time they start figuring out who I am, they will actually also not try to fit in those circles and become more and more independent. So this independence firstly is a natural thing to happen. Okay. However, what you said, hyper independence, this sometimes comes out of fear. Okay. Fear of when our needs are not met, when I was dependent, or when I was in a circle, if I was betrayed. Now I'm never going to depend on anybody. So independence is a natural thing to come at this stage, but the hyper independence, if it is there, it is coming out of a fear, and that fear, then we need to heal it. That is how the hyper independence, that is how we will be able to then move to interdependence.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, yes. Yes,
So how
Harsh.
do I not let this fear or the self-doubt affect my relationship or my parenting or even at work? How
Right.
we do?
Right. Normally, we are trying to actually put it under the carpet. Okay. If I have self-doubt, we are trying to do more and more so that now I will believe myself. Now I will not doubt myself. But that doesn't take away the self-doubt. We have to see it. If there is fear, we trying to do something so that now the fear will go away, does not happen. We have to confront the fear. So on the outside world, we may keep doing what we need to, right? The self-doubt, the roots are in the childhood. Most of us as children were told, only if you go and get that marks will you get that cycle, right? So basically everything is conditional. I'm not going to get anything. I'm not good enough otherwise. I'm not going to get love otherwise without any conditions. I have to do something that makes me then worthy of love. So this worthiness is compromised right from the childhood. Okay. Whereas this is not the higher truth. So we have to basically drop this lie. This is a belief. When I do this, then I will be worthy. Now this is a belief that the child within has formed. We have to work on that. We have to confront that. Where is this coming from? And we have to drop that lie. That is how it will not pass on. When as parents, we do not take ourselves as worthy. If our worthiness always depends on something else, right? We are automatically going to pass it on to our child. I was just sharing in the workshop, we had a money and spirituality workshop. And when we talk about self-worth, right? The way that we speak, we are always saying this one is worth this much. This person is worth 100 crores. This person is worth 10 crores. Why don't we say this person has this much money right now? Why is the worth connected to the money? Right? When we say this person is worth this much, automatically the society is making us believe that the worth of people is different. Yeah, that needs to drop. That inner dialogue needs to drop.
So education, money, your all of those things, the job that you have, the position that you have, they make us feel worthy or not worthy. But that's not true. All human beings have equal worth. We are all coming from source. We are all, we have the same red color blood. We have all the same organs. And worth is not comparative or competitive. We are all worthy. But this feeling, this lack of self worth really causes a lot of trauma and you know, a lot of behaviors that we see in our workplace and at home is coming from this place of us not feeling worthy. And when you practice self-love, you actually reconnect also with your own worthiness. We are all inherently worthy. Right? Yes.
Uh, just to have this context, when you realize that, you've done the work and you feel that self-love is something which you've been missing, and you start loving yourself, a lot of times, again, the perception outside changes to being selfish because you started thinking more about yourself. But there's also a guilt aspect which automatically comes in as a person because it's very difficult to make that shift. How do we work around that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, if you go in any aircraft, it says that please wear your mask before you help the others. And if you really want to serve other people well, you have to look after yourself well. If you want, you cannot give what you don't have. If you don't feel love, you cannot give love. If you feel angry, you will give anger. If you feel frustration, you will give frustration. We are like an orange. You squeeze an orange, can you get mango juice when you squeeze an orange? You'll get orange juice only. Whatever you do, how many ever times you squeeze an orange, you'll get orange juice. You cannot get mango juice. So whatever is inside of us will come outside of us. So when we say that, loving ourselves or cultivating self-love, has nothing to do with being selfish. It is about what you because you have self-love, you will also have greater, you'll be able to give that much more love. Actually, that selfishness is also self-obsession that you're talking about. That's kind of narcissistic behavior as an adult, where you need, I want more, I want power, I want money, I want position, I'm going to be. So there is a lot of that comes through, and I think we know that when we are being that person who's selfish, we have a radio antenna within us. We have a consciousness that knows when we are going in that direction. It's a beautiful balance, actually, and the greatest gift we can give to the world is to work on ourselves, to love ourselves. Once we have worked on ourselves, we have practiced self-love, we can then share it so beautifully with the rest of the world.
There are so many people who are like givers, right? And actually the giver is the child within who's going on giving and going on doing for other people, and actually inside feeling, now have I given you enough to deserve your love? Actually, we are craving for that love. And when you start loving yourself, and when you, for example, start not over giving, obviously some people may think you are selfish now, you're thinking about yourself. But that shift is important. As Ganesh said, first you have to do that for yourself. And of course, the true relationships are going to stay. They're going to find their own adjustment, right? You will change, they will change with you, and the whole dynamic will shift, but that will be there. And of course, some relationships which only wanted to take will fall off, and that's also okay.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Over giving and over receiving in any relationship, over giving as well as over receiving, means that relationship is already dysfunctional or will become dysfunctional at some point. Because other than our parents and other than our teachers, all other relationships have to have a balance of giving and receiving. Because when you overgive, you become a martyr in a relationship. You are no longer there. There's no joy. You're exhausted all the time. You're exhausted, giving. And if you're over receiving all the time, again, you're actually going to have so much guilt, unconscious guilt that you carry because you are not able to give back. With our parents, we can only serve them as children. Parents give us life, we can't give them life back. We can pass it forward. So we receive the gift of life from our parents and we can pass it forward to our children. Similarly, the wisdom that we receive from our teachers and our, coaches and our masters, we can pass that forward. We cannot give that back very easily. So it is so important to know that in every other relationship other than with your parents and your teachers or your gurus, you are going to actually look to find the balance. If you want a functional relationship, a healthy relationship, you'd find the balance. And we always try to find that balance. Have you noticed that when you go to a wedding and somebody gives you, you give a gift, they come back and give you a little bit more. Then you give a little bit more. If suddenly someone gives you a very big gift, you feel a burden. Have you seen that? You feel that burden. It's too much. How can I take, so much from you? So it's important not to overgive and not to over receive, to kind of keep that beautiful balance. With that, I wanted to go on to the next topic, Preeti, on breaking the cycle. And I think we were already touching upon this. How healing shapes this next generation, how this work, actually does not just impact us, but it impacts several other people around us and the generations after us when we do this self-work. You want to share?
Yes. So we all, of course, know about genetic diseases, right? But now the science is actually bringing out that it's not only illnesses, it's not only in the body that things are passed on, but there is information also that is passed on. This information is there in the field, which is called as morphogenetic field. So what happened to your grandfather or your great-grandfather, some trauma that especially happened there, which was not processed. When I say trauma, many times we recognize that it's very difficult to deal with some of the things which are so painful. For example, partition happened and part of the family was just killed in that. Now, when they had to come here, the pain was so much that they had to really just bury the pain and they had to just move on. They had to just think about who survived. They couldn't grieve the ones that were lost. Now, this information, this trauma, this pain is there in the field. And a person from this generation will actually start experiencing some of this, right? It is not experienced in the exact way. It's not like the same story will come out, but some sabotaging patterns will start coming out, right? So we really need to complete that cycle. That energy which was unprocessed is still there in the field, and some person of the family will get affected and will actually be bringing out that information. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think there's something very beautiful about breaking patterns. Patterns are formed over many generations and patterns last for many generations. Whether it is a health pattern or a behavioral pattern or a self-sabotage pattern. So if you see that every system, there is a certain consciousness that exists. Schools have a certain consciousness, countries have a certain consciousness. Every city has its own consciousness. There are some cities that have a very entrepreneurial consciousness. There are other cities that have a very, there is a consciousness which is possibly an abundance consciousness. Schools as a community, they are very compliant. They were created for compliance. So if you think about schools, they have a compliance consciousness. Assessments, comply, memorize, repeat, follow instruction, do things a certain way. This is why schools were created. So when you try to bring creativity, it's much harder today because for 200 years, schools were created in a way that they were just compliant. They didn't want people to ask questions. Around the first industrial revolution, we created schools so that people could come in and, follow instructions. They would memorize, repeat again and again something that was asked. They were in a production line. They were just supposed to do again and again the same thing and just follow instruction. We didn't want people to think and ask questions. That's why we created schools. We wanted compliance. Today, we need creativity to survive. So schools sometimes can struggle. They still get caught up in that old consciousness. So a family also has a consciousness. Every organization also has a consciousness. There is a consciousness of service in a particular organization. There is a consciousness of making profit at any cost in a certain organization. You see, and this consciousness can shift. But it's so important that we identify what those patterns are and we break free from those patterns.
One of the simple and most important steps when I was talking about the ancestor, a simple thing that we do in the field when we actually access that information is we tell the ancestor, I see you now. I see what you went through. I see the pain and I see the destiny. Right? Just us acknowledging what happened, acknowledging their destiny, and then giving ourselves the permission to be different. When we are talking about patterns that run in the family, actually the child loves the ancestors, loves the family, and we have a need to belong. So somewhere when there is pain, we feel like I have to have the pain, I have to carry the pain to be able to belong there. So seeing that it was their destiny and then giving ourselves the permission to be different, that is what starts ending this pattern.
Wonderful. Whenever there is a dysfunction in a system, so what we do is, so there's meditation and there's therapy, healing therapies. Meditation is shutting your eyes down, shutting your five senses down, sitting down. Meditation is on the mat. The goal of meditation is to practice becoming present, coming in the moment. Meditation is being present with eyes closed. Mindfulness is being present with eyes open. You are present. Wherever you are fully there. Meditation is on the mat or on the chair. Mindfulness is off the mat or in the workplace or off the chair. Right? With eyes open. Meditation, eyes closed. Mindfulness, eyes open. What is therapy? What are healing therapies, modalities? They are meant to go to the root cause of some of the challenges that we experience, which could be systemic, which is what we just spoke about. They could be coming from the system, from the family system or the organization system. They could be personal, coming from our own childhood. So, whenever there is a dysfunction in our life, in our relationships, at our workplace, in our society, whenever there is a dysfunction, whenever there is a conflict, whenever there are those challenges that we face, what happens is we look at the entire system. That work was pioneered by Bert Hellinger, who's a great teacher from Germany, and it is called Family Constellation and Transgenerational Healing. So he actually looked at things from a systemic view. In a system, so if the body is a system, one leg gets injured, one part of the system is affected, the other leg will need to take the pressure, the arms will take the pressure. If the lungs are damaged, then the kidney will get affected. Similarly, in a family also, there's mother, father, brother, sister. If there is a dysfunction with one member, all the other members get affected. In an organization also, if there is any dispute between two colleagues in an organization, it affects the entire organization. If one person leaves, the whole organization starts to kind of feel a certain void. So whenever there is any dysfunction in a system, so we look at things systemically. So there is meditation has its own place, which is to bring presence and to become more mindful. And therapy has its own place to look at things from a systemic perspective, to look at things from a personal perspective, and to go to the root cause of some of our challenges. Yeah. Excellent.
Any other questions?
What an incredible group this has been. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
thank you,
All the
thank
best.
you.
Thank you.